Hey guys, welcome to Connerty Meadows Farm. My name is Ricky, and yeah, I have a whole bunch of goats with me. So we live in Canada, Ontario, Canada, and it gets pretty cold here sometimes. And I maybe spoil my goats a little bit. Either way, I have designed and made goat coats, and I've been doing this for about 10 years now for all of our goats. At one time we had a herd of about 80 goats, and at the time at our old farm I would only put coats on goats that were really cold or fragile or needed it, and it's the same now. We have significantly less goats now, but my one biggest goat has outgrown every sort of one-size-fits-all coat that I've made. So in this video, I am going to show you how I make a coat for a goat.
I'm just going to demonstrate here on Alice how we put the coats on. Now, my coats are made to go over their head. Originally, I did look at maybe putting a Velcro option on their neck, but goats rub up against everything, and that Velcro would eventually be rubbed and come apart. And then I would also have nowhere to put this strap down between their legs, which goes around their girth to hold it on. So ultimately, after trial and error and lots of thought process, this is the design that I have come up with.
Old Alice here is sporting two, because it's so cold right now, of the coats that I have made. But she'll just show you here. This is what our basic design looks like. And so this is what I'm gonna make, only I'm gonna make it for our bigger goat named Puss.
My inspiration for the design actually came from my dog jackets. So this is the dog jacket that I started with, and I liked the idea of putting the Velcro in the front to go around their heads, but the reality is one more thing to try to put on a goat just wasn't working. So I strapped this design pretty early on. Then I looked at this design, and there was a number of things that I really liked about this design. So you can see back here, there's this stitch, which you'll see me, in the video I already have this stitched up. And on the dog jacket, they've actually got two, one here and here. I chose to just do one in the middle. And then there's this front bit. This was the biggest thing. So on my coat, you will see I have a strip here, a big long strip here, and that goes between their legs. And then I have not this shape, but I did basically a T, and I've attached the clip on one end and this clip on the other. And those, when they're on the animal, go up and around the animal, which I do show you in the video. So then I looked at two more of our dog coat designs. My dogs aren't spoiled, but they were really great to have these designs to take from. And this one has the stitching down the back. But what it also has is the leg straps. So that's where I got my leg strap idea. And you can see in the front here, there is basically almost the cross that I use on mine. So there's this big stitch. This goes down between their front legs. And then this is ultimately where you do them up with. And this design is very similar. So you have your down the back, and then in the front here, your two sides mesh together, and then you have like your down and around. So you can see here on this dog coat, the way this is attached, and this is very similar to how I did mine. So I didn't use any one specific design while I was making this coat. I kind of made my own, and then I used a newspaper and I kind of just drew out how it was going to look with the newspaper, tried a few times, and unfortunately I don't have that on video because it was done multiple years before, but I just wanted to show you sort of what this looked like. All right, I'm going to show you what the coat is going to look like when we're done now, and at the end I'm going to show you a video of an older version of this coat that I made. But here's the straps that I talked about that goes around them, and then these are the leg straps. They're no longer elastic, and each of these coats are made with 3 layers, a top, a middle, and then the bottom. With the weather we've had around here lately, it was imperative I find a way to keep some of my more delicate and older goats a little bit warmer. So I made these goat coats. I copied the pattern from my dog jacket and then just made it a lot longer. So the outside layer, this brown part here, is actually just 100% cotton sateen sheet. And the reason why you need to get the sateen is so that the hay doesn't stick to it. And then in between the layers, there is this quilted duvet. So there's the fluff on the inside, and of course the layers of the duvet. And then on the spot that's next to their skin is a fleece. The cheapest way to get this fleece I actually found, instead of buying it by the meter, was to purchase it in Giant Tiger or secondhand stores that sell the fleece, and that makes up your 3 layers. So you also have your front, and then the strap that goes around the middle. And then the last thing that you need to make these safe are the back leg straps. They don't particularly like having them put on, but it's really important to put them on because this will slide on their bodies if you don't have those leg straps on. They're loose enough that they can still move in them, but tight enough that they're not going to get stuck on anything. In years later, I stopped actually using the fleece, and the inner layer is now wool that I purchased at secondhand stores. So I've already got most of this blanket that's going to be Puss's here prepped. We have the inner layer, which I had to piece together because I didn't have a lot of it left. The top layer, which is sateen, the cotton, and you can see here I'm just kind of laying it all out, make sure that everything is relatively the same size. And then the layer that's going to go next to her skin is actually a horse wool cooler. I had one that had some holes in it that I kind of repaired, and again I kind of pieced it together. So this blanket isn't as nice as most of the other ones are, but it's still okay. So what you see me doing here is I am putting the fabric with the printed side up, and then I'm putting the wool next to it, and then I am putting the comforter on the top. And you're gonna think, well, this is really weird, why are we doing this? And you'll see in a bit that I'm actually gonna turn it inside out. So what you want is the pretty layer facing up, and then the layer that's going to go next to their skin kind of kissing the pretty layer. And this is important because right now we're going to sew it all together, and then we're going to flip it all inside out. And this just is going to make a nice strong seam for us. You'll also notice that my layers are all different sizes. I had to work with what I had, and I'm just doing the best that I've got here. So you can see I'm going to sew it all except for the top part. So let's get onto the sewing machine. Now old Granny here is a treadle machine, and she will pretty much sew through anything. She's a workhorse. So I am just sewing all the way around except for the part that will go up on their chest. Now I'm taking out all of the pins, and you're going to see I'm going to actually cut off a significant amount of the extra because we don't need it all. I was just trying to make sure that I used as much of the fabric as I could. And unfortunately, the smallest amount of fabric was the comforter. Okay, so here we are. You can see we're inside out, but the front top here, which is the part that goes across her chest, is open. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that piece and we're going to flip it inside out, or inside right in this case. And this is why it was important to have the pretty side and the side touching where her body was going to touch, facing each other. Because now I'm turning it all inside right from its inside out, and we'll be able to sew it. Now you can see that's one of the repairs that I had to make. It is what it is. So now we're going to pin our seams together. So make sure that our seams are lined up, because we are going to almost like quilt down the middle of it. So I'm kind of shaking it all into place. I want to get it all kind of as flat as possible so that there's no lumps and bumps and things that aren't going to feel comfortable for the goat. And it's just a simple pin, the two seams straight down her spine together. Once I have that pinned, we can go ahead and sew straight down the middle. And we're going to just take it a little slow and take it easy, because I want to make sure we're sewing all 3 layers as kind of flat as possible. So again, there's no irritation on her spine or on her body when this is lying down on her back, because remember, we do clip up around her spine. All right, so we've got it fully done. It's all 3 layers sewed together. You can see front and back. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to pin all the way around the outside, which we flipped inside right or inside out, whichever way you want to look at it. And then once we have that all pinned, we're going to sew all the way around the exterior of the blanket. Again, where we're not going to sew is the opening that we used to turn it inside out. Let's see. You're hilarious, Missy. There we go. Oh. Now, let's see. Oh, that's going to be good. Look, it's long enough. And, oh, that's going to be a great fit by the time I get that front done up. Perfect. There we go. You're going to have a blankie. All right, back in the house now. So this is her blanket. Now on the front there that's not sewn, we're going to have to sew it and add this strapping that goes around the goat to hold the coat on. And it goes all the way kind of around her rib cage and the straps. So we're getting close to getting to where we need to go. And you can see I have clips that will clip around the legs. So that is what the finished product is going to look like. So we've just got to get going on this one. Thing that we're going to need to do is start with what I call the T for the front. So you can see this is where we add our straps into. Fortunately, they didn't have any more black straps. I just had that one for the one side, so we're going to use a white one. It's the same idea. It's just not, it's more cloth than nylon, but it'll get the job done, so it's fine. And to be honest, the white actually kind of looks a little bit nicer, so that's okay. So this is the next step. This is only 2 layers. It's only the sateen cotton and the fleece. It does not have the middle fluffy layer because this is not a spot to keep them warm. It's just to attach the straps and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some of these scraps that I have, figure out what is going to work for sizing best, and then I will cut them. Now, this is for a smaller goat. So I'm kind of have to guess at how big I'm going to need hers to be, because she's significantly bigger. So we're just going to take a stab at the dark and guess and see what happens. So these two strips, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to sew them, and then I'm also going to use this wool. And again, like I said, I'm now using wool against their skin, not the fleece. And the wool is actually a lot better for them. I buy the blankets secondhand. And this was a number of years ago that I bought this wool when it didn't cost an absolute fortune. I used to buy a full blanket for $6 or $7, and I would get a number of goat coats out of it, but it's not that way anymore. All right, so these strips, we're going to go ahead, we're going to sew them all the way around, and we're going to leave an end open. And we're going to leave an end open because we're going to do the same thing with these straps that we did with the coats. We're going to turn them inside right, inside out, whatever way you want to look at it. And this just makes for a stronger stitch and less likely that they pull the stitches out because it'll be double stitched. Now, once we have it fully turned inside right, we're going to go ahead and we have to close this end piece that we pulled it through. So you can see I'm just going to tuck it all in and try to, again, make everything as flat as possible. We do not want any lumps and bumps. Hello, Thomas in the background, who did not realize I was videotaping. Now I'm just going to go ahead and pin that, and then I can go ahead and we're going to sew all the way around it. And that's what I mean by double stitching. So it's sewed on the inside, and then we're going to sew all the way around the rectangle on the outside. And that gives us that extra strength, simply because it has two sets of stitches in it. And that's kind of important because this will be stretched, because this is going to be the piece that goes around the girth of the goat, which means that it's going to have pretty good amount of pressure on it because it's where the straps are going to go. Now this particular one is the same thing. I've sewed it one way. Now we have to turn it inside right as we struggle with it. And this one is going to be the one that goes like from her neck down between her legs. And same thing here. We're going to go ahead, we're going to fold the end piece in. I'm just trying to show you a little bit here how I do that. And then once it's folded over, there, it's relatively flat. Then we pin it, and we're going to do the same thing with this one. So entirely on the outside edge of the whole thing so that it is nice and strong. And I think this is actually going to be much too long, but I'd rather have it too long than too short, because I can always sew it. Now you can see here, this was the end that we turned it inside out, and I'm just trying to show you in slow motion. I just have to go nice and slow to make sure that, one, I don't hit the pin, and two, that we get it properly closed up, because we don't want these things to fall apart. I want these guys to last. It takes me quite a while to make them, and I've had some of them around for close to 10 years now, just modifying them here and there as they need to. All right, so let's finish this up, and we will move on to the next step, which is attaching our straps. So the strap on the end here, we want it to be able to move. So even though we are sewing that tight, the back piece that clips moves. Now I know it is a different color of thread. Don't come at me. I'm just using the thread that's on there. Remember, it's just a goat coat. It's nothing special, and I don't really care that much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find the middle of this, and we're going to mark it, as that's important for the next step. And the next step is adding the piece that's going to come down from her chest between her legs, and we want that to be in the middle, and that's why I marked the middle of the other one. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew this together. Now, like I had said, chances are I am going to have to cut that middle strap and adjust it. I think I made it too long, but better too long than too short. I can always adjust it. Now that we have that all sewed in, and you can see I made it so that it's pretty easy. If I have to, I can just seam rip that off and then cut it. So it's not like that difficult. So the next thing we're going to do is, remember how the inside layer of this part of the coat, this is where the chest will be, was not as many layers. So we're going to overlap the outside 2 layers to make sure that the inside layers are all lined up. And then once we have that, we're going to attach our strap so that it looks like this. And you can see, so the strap is holding the 2 edges together. And again, yes, it's yucky in the back, but you can see it's flat. It's not going to bother her any, and it's just a really strong hold there. So that's why we do it that way. And this is what it looks like. And now I'm just going to measure the leg straps here. Now these are just flannel pieces folded in half and sewed together. And this little elastic bit, I'm going to add a similar elastic amount on the back. But first I need to measure. Merlin, you're in the way. And there is Asian beetles crawling all over my floor. Terrible at this time of year. All right, so here's our straps, and I'm adding this little piece of elastic. We've discovered in the past full elastic is no good, and the partial elastic works because if the partial elastic stretches out, which it will, then I can just seam rip it off and just easily attach another piece of elastic in there. I just slid the elastic with a little clip down into the flannel because I fold it in half and put a seam in it. So I'm just sliding that elastic down into the flannel, and then I'm going to sew the elastic at the end of the flannel to hold it in place. You can see me doing that here. Again, I am not a professional. It's not going to be pretty. It's just a job done. That is all it is. So we're just going to go ahead, sew that all down, and that way, again, if I need to at a later date, which I will, this elastic will give in a year or 2, I can go ahead and just snip it off or seam rip it off and add another one. And the clip hopefully will last a little bit longer. Now you can see where I need to attach it. I've marked it. And in the past I used to put them on the inside, but what happened was when I would try to seam rip them off, the wool would get wrecked in the seam ripping. So I've found that attaching them on the outside, well, it doesn't look as nice. It's easier to seam rip it off if in the future for any reason I do need to seam rip it off. And these are all things that I've kind of learned along the way. And then that top part is where the other little clip goes. No elastic needed on this side, and again that's just a little fleece, and it's just enough that I can clip onto it, and so it hangs down just a smidge, and then we're just going to attach that onto the back, and here you go. Now I have a leg strap. Now I did make this leg strap longer than the ones that I had because again she's a bigger goat, but there's a possibility that it might be too big and I might need to seam rip it off. So that piece there might be a bit long. We're going to take this out and we're going to try it on. And if this piece does happen to be long, the nice thing is I just take this off and I can cut this and move it up a bit. So we're just gonna have to see. So let's take it out and try it on. She's gonna run and I'm gonna have to catch her. So
okay, stop pulling.
Just want to see if it fits, honey. After all that work I did.
I can't. I'm gonna try and move to the front here so that I can see what you're doing instead of just getting your butt in the shots.
Okay, so I kind of thought that might be a problem. Definitely.
Can you tuck it or a way to shorten it?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just go in and sew it. Okay. Almost an exact fold, which is what I thought.
If you don't touch her legs, they don't mind.
That seems too long too.
Can you tighten those though? Stop moving, please.
Okay. So, a few things we gotta fix. I gave a little extra because I thought with her being bigger, I need bigger straps. So, I just need to shorten the straps and this, look at this. That's excessive. But it's basically just a... But at least the width, like the length. So the length.
It doesn't eat it.
Yeah, the length and the width is a good fit. Okay. I went back inside and I just quickly made those adjustments and let's see if they worked. All right. Let's see if I fixed it. Hey. In such a way. No, don't eat that. There we go. You'd think they'd be thankful for getting something warm on them. That fits. Well, she'll be warm tonight at least. What do you think, Puss? That's a good fit. Now that I worked out all the kinks on how big it needed to be, that's a good fit. Excellent. See, now you're a big suck. Huh? Now you're a big suck. All right. So this is our coat selection. And I just like keep it on a little pole here in the barn. So it's going to be pretty cold tonight, negative 23 degrees Celsius, just for the static temperature. So I'm going to grab a coat here and put it on the other one. Okay. Let's get your jacket on. Yeah, so socks is a little happier, easier. There we go. There's a head. And then just turn that around. Put the straps on the middle. So that's one of the earlier designs I did that has elastic on the bottom of it. Unfortunately, that elastic stretched a lot, so I may have to grab one of the non-elastic ones here. Thing is, without the back straps, the whole thing, because goats move a lot, slides to one side. And what we discovered was after about 2 years or a year, see how the elastics are completely stretched out? So I'm constantly coming in here and fixing those, which is why when I made the new design, I have straps on them. And then we discovered that sometimes, depending on which goat they got put on, the straps would be too tight or too loose. So that's why with hers, I integrated a little piece of elastic
into hers. And then I can just take that elastic off and put a new elastic piece, that small little piece with the clip on the end, on. I may just leave that on for tonight, and when I come back out later, if I need to, I'll adjust it then. Now, you notice that the billy goat, I didn't put one on him. And the reason behind that is he actually has horns, and I can't get the neck of these around his horns. But you'll also notice he's got like twice the fur that the girls had, so I don't worry about it that much with him. So this was one of the older ones, and you can see I switched out the elastic for these a couple years back. And then on the newest one, I actually put a strip of elastic here. So the elastics definitely play a role. And I got the idea for the elastics from the horse blankets. So this is a horse blanket strap, and this one actually busted on the clip here. And you'll notice at the back end of this strap, there's elastic here to stretch. So that's where I got the idea for the elastic in the leg straps, was from the horse straps. But the rest of the design of the jacket actually came from this design from the dog. The way that the front goes, the way that the clip is. Kind of used ideas from the dog blanket, horse blankets, and then came up with my design of goat blankets. See, you can see where her spine is and how this is shifted. I'm probably gonna have to switch that out tonight, but we'll see. I'll come back in. I usually come in around midnight and I'll do my check then. Hers looks good, nice, solid, fits her well. I'm really happy with that. And these ones on this side of the barn, it is only 0 degrees Celsius on this side of the barn because it's all insulated, and we have this blanket here. So these guys probably are not going to get a blanket on at all. But old Alice here, she's actually got 2 on. Usually I keep her in 1, but at night if it's going to be really cold like tonight, she'll get double. And the bottom one was made for her. The top one is just a like one size fits all kind of that I made, and she needs the 2 just because she's so old, 13, 14, and she really struggles to keep her body temperature. So I don't mind putting an extra blankie or 2 on her to help her along. None of these guys, these are all boys with horns, and again, they're in the warmer part of the barn, so we won't worry about putting anything on any of them. But these girls, I do have blankets for both of them that are named and made for their size. But because they're in this part of the barn where it's warmer and I've got it all closed in, they won't need it. Not like Miss Alice here. This one looks like a bigger, thicker one. So yeah, I'm gonna grab this one and get it on. So when I came in, her jacket was completely sideways, and it wasn't good. So I've gone ahead and I've switched the jacket, and now the Billy needs to like scent himself all over it again. You can see the leg straps on that one are better. The whole jacket's better. He's just marking his territory. Normally, we don't have any problems with them being chewed on or anything like that, but he's just trying to mark his territory. Hopefully, he doesn't damage them. But looks good. Yeah, you guys are good. You're fine.
All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us on the farm. And I hope that this was helpful. I am not a seamstress. I don't say that I am. I just sew to get the job done. So while it's not pretty, it gets the job done. So thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time on the farm. Mwah.